everyone. This is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, welcoming everyone to a very special town hall with our good friends at the New York School of Interior Design. Now, we know them as NYSID. And the topic today, and this is a really good one, 5 things I wish I knew before I started a career. We need to have this talk, by the way, everyone, because we're living in this crazy Instagram-focused culture of perfection, perfect interiors, perfect everything. And you rarely see the painstaking process that goes into making a project truly special. And I know, everybody, we love a great before and after, but what about all those steps in here, in between, all the subtleties, the details, and the problem solving that a good interior designer and architect learned from years of experience? Well, today you're in luck because we're pulling back the curtain with 2 of the industry's top talents. I am joined by the one and only Alexa Hampton, owner and president of Mark Hampton, and Andrew Oyen, principal of Ferguson and Shamamian Architects, for a candid chat about some of their best and worst moments and what they wish they'd known when they just got started. Hi guys, it's so nice to see you all.
Hi there, very nice to be here, thank you.
Alexa, how are you?
So happy to see you. I cannot tell you, both of you.
I know, we're gonna have a great time. Everyone out there, you're in for a treat. Now, as we get started, I just want everyone to know about NYSID. It's, by the way, it's up the street from where I live. Founded in 1916, New York School of Interior Design is a private nonprofit college focused exclusively on interior design. It's a beautiful school, offering certificate, undergrad, and grad programs for students at all stages of their career. And by the way, they've been consistently ranked as one of the top interior design programs of the United States. And they do both residential, commercial interior design with some specialties in sustainable design, lighting, and healthcare. They got healthcare interiors, they have it all, everybody. So as we get started, Alexa and Andrew, just a few questions about the profession. First of all, are you an interior designer or an architect?
Alexa?
Interior designer and board member at NYSID.
Yeah.
So I've drunk the Kool-Aid. NYSID.
Love that. And Andrew?
And Andrew, I'm an architect, although I got my start in interior design. I worked for 8 years with an interior designer, and I'm a big fan of NYSID.
There we go. We love that. So I guess the first question is, architecture is a licensed profession and interior design isn't. So with so many designers out there practicing without a degree, why would you choose to go to design school? Alexa, tell us about that.
That is precisely why I would go to design school. If, there are many things that one can do to distinguish oneself in one's profession. You can be amazing at it. You can also be wonderful to work with. You can be expert in various things. The way you get to some of those expertises, which are much less ephemeral than being fun to be with or, getting out there and getting your work seen. If you've got the chops and you've learned them and you're accredited, it does give a huge amount of credence to a profession that to some, feels very wishy-washy. I've been at dinners seated next to, a colleague of my husband's, and, I'm Mrs. Papa, you're you at the dinner. And they're like, so what do you do? And I tell them, and I just watch their eyes. I watch them die inside. Or I feel the pat on the head like, oh, you must shop all day. So, and for sure there are people out there who are incredibly talented. They just have God-given talent. But there's nothing wrong about expertise and knowledge and having an education. And I would totally support. I mean, I only hire from NYSID actually, for not on purpose. It's not a policy, but it happens to be the case.
It happens. It's what happens. And Andrew, so you're an architect, although you said you love interiors.
I do. And I think, I think I'm a firm believer in you don't start learning until you start working. However, an education provides a structure and a discipline within which it's a construct that I think having that background, when you do start working in the field and you find out these experiences are incredibly different, you refer back to the structure that you had in school. as well as some of the fundamental information you use as sort of your building blocks. So I think it's that discipline is really, really important.
Yeah, and I can say, as you know, a magazine that honors the profession, there are very few talents out there that get in the pages of interior design that have not gone to school, because you can see the difference in the projects too. Like everything is different when you're a professional as opposed to not. So good start promoting NYSID, who we love and is supporting our industry in a big way. Now you guys are going to talk to those who are just getting started in their careers, and this is the stuff that you can't pay for this stuff. It's like 5 things. Oh my God, I wish I knew.
But feel free to pay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're going to kind of go back and forth with some of your tips and some of your stories that go along with it. Alexa, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Your number one first tip was don't install unflattering lighting. Lighting gets a bad rap, right?
It's funny that I say that while I'm being blasted by natural light and I look like a ghost. But yeah, lighting is anything that is not obviously part of the visual senses. I mean, that is more than just the visual sense, right? It creates an ambiance, and it's something that people forget to contend with, and one cannot. And I love chandeliers and I love flush mounts, but I don't like living underneath that light. You know, it comes down, it's ghoulish. Not my best look. And after all, it's all about vanity. But everybody will tell you that everything has to be on a dimmer. But in addition to that, if you speak to lighting designers, and there are many out there, and it's a rapidly changing business, so it's great to touch base with them whenever possible. The best kind of light comes from having many different sources in the same room. So in the room I'm in, I have downlights, I have sconces, I have lamps, I have picture lights, and I have like can up lights. So I've got it coming from all different directions, which softens one's appearance. And it's a great, easily forgotten aspect of design that should not be forgotten.
Right. And you know, isn't it so funny, because I think we all love lighting, but just in terms of projects, it's the thing that gets sometimes pushed to the side or put in at the end as opposed to the beginning. Andrew, in terms of architecture all the time, which it shouldn't.
Now, so Alexa, Leonard Lauder agrees with you. We were doing the elevator in his apartment building, and we had to run the lighting by him, and he gave us tips on how to make women look beautiful in an elevator.
Yeah.
And he completely supports your point of view.
I love that. Okay, so Alexa's first tip, don't forget about the lighting. You got to install beautiful and lots of different kind of lighting. All right, Andrew, your first tip is, and I love this, you're starting at the top.
Yes.
Always check the attic.
Right, and that's not a metaphor, that's literal. So back in 2001, when business was really quiet, we had a call from a woman in LA to come out and look at her new house, and met her at her property. She purchased it. Very elegantly dressed person, looked very, sort of capable to spend lots of money renovating this, beautiful house from the 20s. The house had been built for a famous movie star. It had been lived on by, I think, Fanny Brice and Alan Ladd and Jerry Ross, and the wall-to-wall carpeting in the library still smelled like bong water. That's what everyone said. So we hear about the plans to renovate the house, and they include replacing the slate roof, which is in bad condition. We go to check the attic and find the whole house has been framed with 2x4s. Wow. So that's not so uncommon in Hollywood, where these houses were built like movie sets. They really were built. So, but people think differently today, and earthquakes happen, and they're about to spend a lot of money on this house. So, unfortunately, a lot of the house had to be taken down. It was rebuilt in a beautiful way. It took 2 to 3 years longer than everybody expected. It cost about $7 million more than people expected. Almost ended in a divorce, but they were very happy in the long run. However, I wish we checked the attic on day one.
Yeah, I love there's like an image that there's just the lone staircase and it says save.
So that was the staircase that Fanny Bryce used to come down to her parties. That was the grand entrance, right?
Wow. Well, at least you were able to keep the grand entrance, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That's a fantastic story. Okay, Alexa, next is plan for the worst and don't forget insurance. Now, I always say we're very positive, designers are very positive, but this is a very important tip.
Yeah, insurance is no joke. And it's a grim thing, but you need it. Prepare for the worst and don't forget insurance. That came from a project in New Orleans that got clobbered by Hurricane Katrina, but it had this very silver lining ending that ended in a Botticelli.
Wow. You said they found one?
Well, no, they had it and they thought it was studio of.
Right.
And post Katrina, we had to clean everything and we sent that to the Met to be cleaned, whereupon they discovered that it was an actual Botticelli. Though that might not be the best story for insurance, because that was the one bad thing that my client said to me later was, crap, my insurance just went up. I think Andrew and I could probably turn your head with crazy stories of things that have, like horrendous things that have happened on job sites. But it's part of being a professional. Right. If you're going to be a professional, you have to approach your workplace professionally. You need to have insurance, you need to understand payroll taxes, like you've got to get to the nitty-gritty of business if you're going to do it as a business. And I know a lot of times we let ourselves off the hook by saying, oh, we're creative people. We just can't afford not to pay attention to those things. Right. And something I just found out recently was that, and I'm happy, I don't know this from my own experience, knock on wood, but I heard that if you get our industry insurance, you don't have to pay for your legal bills.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
So that could be wrong, but I mean, that could be more specific than that. There could be cases in which that's not the case, but there are cases in which that is the case. So there's just no reason not to do it.
Yeah. And as you said, there's things that you don't want to do, and you have to be very aware as a designer once you have a firm what you're not good at and have somebody else do it. When the minute you can hire someone,
but you can't completely divorce yourself from it.
Yes, that's true.
You've got to at least be slightly aware of those things.
That's true. The tough stuff is part of it all, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the least fun thing to spend money on, but absolutely necessary.
Exactly. So don't forget your insurance, everyone. All right. So something I wish I knew before I started my career, sometimes you have to stick with what you're given.
So a number of years ago, my colleagues Stephen Crispin and Oscar Shamamian met with a client who's purchased a really cool old house. However, the house was larger than it could be rebuilt. It was in very poor condition. It was really close to the ocean, like close in a good way, in a way that you'd never be able to build it today. 21st century people have a lot more possessions than 19th century people did. We have mechanical systems, electronics, needs for storage to keep our children out of trouble, all sorts of things that people in 1890 didn't have. So we needed to stick with that house because we couldn't have rebuilt it in the same way. So we spent a bunch of money to pick the house up, constructed a full basement underneath it, and put it back down again. The house was was beloved in the neighborhood because it was so original. It was also beloved by the number of wildlife that was living in the house at the time the owners purchased it.
Oh no!
But we had a lot of scrutiny. The neighbors were watching all this to make sure that we took good care of it and put it back the way it needed to be put back. The house had a lot of quirky features. They had beautiful odd doors. We moved the doors around to create lovely enfilades to bring the light through. And we replicated as many things as we could to keep the old charm. But it was a case where you really needed to make do. You could not have replaced that house. Yeah.
And you did. And I mean, that's also a very good message about, like, even though it's not exactly what you had expected, you saved what you could, and it was still present. Like the essence of that house was still present.
It was. And I think, sometimes things that are, not necessarily what you'd have done, but are quirky and authentic feel good. and you just have to kind of trust that and stick with it.
Alexa, your next thing you wish you knew was to tell somebody to remember to play with scale.
Yes. And I think this is a great thing to talk about with students who are coming into the workforce. They, when you have things that are perfectly, they're not totally homogeneous, but when you're working in CAD and you're working with templates, I mean, there's a scale that applies to them. But really well done houses have modern scale, which is made for the 21st century ass. It's got antiques, which are not made for the 21st century ass. I mean, they're all different sizes of things, all different shapes, and the best rooms flirt with all of them.
Beautiful, right? And it's something you'll learn. It's almost a constant thing you're always learning, right? With scale, but it's so important. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. Andrew, your next one is, and this is, if people didn't think this is an emotional, an emotional design being emotional, it really is. You say sometimes you're not just an architect. Remember, you're also a therapist.
I know that's a cliche.
Yeah.
And this is sort of a good version of this. So a number of years ago, we had a client. It was his third project. Now, the first was with his first wife. The second was with him as a new bachelor. And the third was with his second wife. This gentleman is as businesslike and conservative and staid as his closet of blue shirts and blue suits will suggest. His new wife was absolutely lovely and vivacious and colorful as the clothing in her closet. And this was a new apartment for them. They're moving in together. So somehow we had to make this apartment work for both of them. We were working with Haynes Roberts on this challenge, who we really collaborated in a great way to fill both needs. And I think we'll show you some pictures of their living room and dining room, which essentially became essays in sort of neutral backgrounds. And we incorporated some things like polished metal and polished wood, which was a nod to him. And it allowed the neutral backgrounds to be a great foil for the very colorful furniture and art, which was really there for her. There's one room in particular that I think really brought them together, and that was the library, which is often, in these 1920s apartments, that was often the gentleman's room. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's very much both the rooms. They chose a color of aubergine that was just brown enough that it would be read as not purple, mm-hmm. That a man could be very happy sitting in. They chose a Benetti table that looked like jewelry that the lady might own. And they chose some beautiful pony skin that brought all back down to earth. And then last, a fireplace, and I don't know where they found this, but probably the only Georgian fireplace I've ever seen that had bright purple veining.
Wow. And was that like a puzzle that was a constant in this project that sometimes you have a harder time dealing with and other times not?
In this case, it was delightful because they were in love and really wanted to, sort of work on this.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge because they came in with very different ideas, and we really had to. It was a fun challenge to make it work for both of them.
Yeah, Alexa, you must have that as well, right?
All the time.
Yeah.
That I experience the same thing, but your obvious thing is to negotiate from the one part of the couple, if it's a couple, to the other person in the couple. Something that I sometimes forget is that we're also negotiating on behalf of the person to the person.
Right.
Like, I will go into many houses, and I guess this is just like latent chauvinism on all of our parts. Mm-hmm. But many women will say, oh, I want this to be my office, and they'll show me like a closet. And the man says, oh, I'm going to take the library. And this happens even in 30,000 square foot houses. And I have to look at the wife and say, you need a bigger office. If you're going to spend any amount of time, like, look at the house you're building. We can find you a space and give you a great office too. You deserve it. And so in that way, we have to be therapists to the person, about the person. Like, right. You're allowed to want these things for yourself.
Yeah. And don't you think, you guys, right now, because what you work on is so personal with everything that's happening with COVID. How much more do you have to be supportive and a therapist and, you know, that kind of deep connection with your clients right now?
We've made some changes in projects midstream, you know, in this last year. We've turned some bedrooms into offices.
Right.
You know, we've sped up construction projects to get people into some place so they don't have to be cramped in their, you know, New York apartment with their whole family. You know.
Right. Right.
But I think the sometimes flowery way we may speak about a project is now much more understandable to the client post-COVID, because we can, they understand the emotions that we might have always imputed to a certain room. Now they get it much more.
Right. Right. I agree. And because also they're using the house more, right?
I know. But they understand that it must convey comfort, that you must feel sheltered, that you must feel safe, that, you know, you shouldn't, for those reasons, you shouldn't put a pocket door in front of a bathroom. I mean, there are all kinds of things that the choices you make that are for your sensibilities, for your experience of the house, not just to make the house sound and beautiful.
And in a weird way, don't you think? Because look, you have clients that have very, very big homes, and now they're living in the homes. They're actually living in all the rooms
Yes.
that you've designed. That's it. That is a different experience. It must feel very satisfying.
I think a lot of the moves that you took for granted before that, now you really appreciate. You know, some people are ambivalent about a dining room. They think, you know, they eat in the kitchen, right? They grab food when they need to. And now I think having a room that's dedicated to something that's a little bit ceremonial now feels really lovely. Yeah. You know,
and
so I think
it forces you to stop working.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, well, good on you guys. I know your clients are asking for more things and functional things too, which is interesting. All right. So Alexa, your next tip is don't install boring window treatments. You got to layer it.
This is also about like when you get into design, right? So though that alone has a hard definition, getting into design, but so I was raised in a designer atmosphere, obviously. Yeah. And I became very aware of what was what when I was working for my father from 13 on, like a month in the summer. And, you know, that was in the late 80s. And then wow, yeah. Fringe and this and that, everything was, you know, gilding the lily. So when my father died in 97 and I took over, I had like a whiplash knee-jerk response where I just didn't want to use trim anymore. I wanted to use tapes, but I didn't want to use cord-on tape. I didn't want fringe. So like I needed to go through that period to now be able to say to you, that sucks. You know, like I had to get it out. I needed to level the playing field with all of this gussiness that I've been dealing with. Yeah. I needed to go clean and lie fallow for a while. And now I can come to it with what I feel is a more rounded view. Yeah, that your windows do a lot for you. You know, you need the curtains to add warmth. You need a shade to cut glare. You definitely need blackout if you're going to go to sleep. The blackout shades that, you know, I came out with last year, you know, I thought we all need, instead of, you know, huge swaths of white plastic, why are our plastic blackout shades, why don't they have a cute little pattern on them? Like, right. We've been doing this for 100 years. Why don't we have that? So those, I think, you know, windows are a wonderful moment. They're an elevation. You look at them because of the light. They're a place to really go for it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, give yourself a pitch on the window curtains, because they won Best of Year, right? What's the name? What's the name?
They did. So it was for the Shade Store, and I have a healthy licensing life, but it always starts with me having some crazy notion and picking up the phone and calling. So I had this gentleman's card from speaking in Texas once, and I had said to myself, when I have a really good idea, I'm going to call him. And so my idea was, you know, how can I be working on these houses where the people spend millions of dollars building it and decorating it, and for their Lutron systems or their whatever, and you have this incredibly complex window program, and down comes a 12-foot by 9-foot white piece of white plastic facing the owners when they're in the bedroom. Like, that is absolutely not appropriate.
Right.
It has to be better than that.
Right. Well, congrats on that. By the way, I do want to give you a big shout out for students out there, anyone who's listening. So Alexa was referring to her father, Mark Hampton, who was really, one of the top American designers in our field. And for you to, it's been over 20 years now of carving out your own path, having a hero for a father and somebody I know you were loved and was so close to, but finding your own path, really it's a big testament to you, Alexa. So I just want to give you kudos on that. And you figured out the wall. You figured out
I figured that out. I figured out the flush mount, and I've got some other ideas that I hope, like if those are things that I can use and be like, wow, that changed my life. Yes. Wow, what a thing to think.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so we have a few more tips. Andrew, yours is a big general, which I think is important for others to listen to. Don't lose sight of the end goal, even when you're keeping your client happy, because that's very hard to balance that, right?
It is, making someone happy. Before I move on to that, I'm going to tell Lexi, your father was the first person I worked with when I joined Ferguson Shamamian in '96.
On Burden?
Yes, in a beautiful house in Bedford. And one of my first experiences was meeting Oscar at 8 in the morning, taking a cab up to his office where he was attired in the most beautiful suit with his Waterman pen, taking notes. It was, I felt like, it just felt like the quintessential New York experience, dream come true. It was so nice working with him.
Thank you. I love hearing that.
It's beautiful.
So but being a leader, I think, being a good designer and listening to your client, but also being a leader. So sometime much later than when I worked with your father, I was quite mature, and I was booed by Jacques Grange at a client meeting. This had been a 3-year design process with clients who were very interested in exploring every aspect of the design, and the design changed this way and that way a million times. This meeting was to wrap up the whole process, and we had samples of everything that had been selected. Because everything had been so fluid, I showed the door hardware with photographs rather than actual samples, and Jacques stood up and booed me for not taking the process seriously enough. So
okay, that's an addressable boo. I didn't know the extent of the boo, and my heart stopped. That's an acceptable boo.
Yeah.
And it really made me realize that you have to take all of this very seriously and be a really good leader for your clients and recognize the commitments that they make as real commitments. So I carry that story with me as a sort of memory of how to always sort of push yourself to become, a good guide through this process. So years after that, we were working for a repeat client on a project in Florida. And years earlier, when we did their first project in Martha's Vineyard, we were too good listeners and not good enough guides. And we let them lead a design that ultimately we realized was never going to be passed by the Historic Review Board. So rather than waste their time, we had to go to them and say, we need to redo this, and we're gonna do this at our own expense, and we're gonna redesign your house a bit in a way that passes. And we were rewarded for this by getting approval on the first go, which is really important in Martha's Vineyard.
Right.
Fast forward to about 10 years later, they're building a house in Florida where there are no restrictions whatsoever. And this time they want to have fun. We forgot all of the lessons we should have learned in Martha's Vineyard, and we went through 21 schemes of schematic design, all kind of allowing themselves to have fun with that process. But at some point, we remembered Martha's Vineyard, and we said, we got to put the brakes on this, because at some point they're going to get fed up. And we chose one of the schemes that we knew they'd like, that we knew intuitively was going to work for us for them. And we brought it to them and said, we've got to stop this and start building your house.
Yeah.
And they listened and said, you're right. And it kept our fees in check. It kept their project somewhat on schedule, and it got the thing built, and they love it. So I think it's something I do also remember, that you have to be, you're a professional that is being hired. Now, we do things, Alexa and I both do things that are very custom. They're highly personal, but at the same time, you have to be a guide.
Yeah, no, it's good advice. And it's something you always have to also tell yourself as you keep going, right? Sometimes you forget that.
Yes.
And you let them take you on all these different journeys.
Yes.
Okay, so Alexa, yeah, you start and end with, you've got the crane now. So we're back to the crane. So be prepared for a crane, or at least a sofa doctor.
Yeah, so there are two companies in New York. One is called Sofa Doctor and the other one is called Dr. Sofa. And there are times in every New York designer's life where no matter how many times you've measured that doorway with your movers, the sofa or the whatever doesn't fit in the door. And these are terrifying, really scary moments. And you have to be nimble. You got to problem solve. And sometimes that means chopping the sofa. Please don't do it in front of the client. Do it, get it in, never have the homeowner around when you're installing. In any case, it's just going to give them an ulcer. But as you can see, it's almost like a Magritte. We're moving a bush in the south of France and it's dangling above a reflecting pool. But yeah, cranes are often part of it too. You have a crane going up to the 10th floor of a building to bring in a piano. Some crazy things can happen, like you need a crane, you need a sofa doctor, which just goes back to telling you that there's a huge logistical element to everything we do, and there is rational reason for things. And when you can describe and discuss with the homeowner what the rational reason is behind something, they totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this sort of ends it on a really interesting note, because you were talking about scale being big. And Andrew, your last tip was measure the chargers and the toilet paper before designing the cabinetry. So it's, also it's big,
macro
but it's
and
all of the
micro.
details. Yeah.
Yes, background full circle. So there's a classic FNS, a story at FNS that gets told to almost every new hire, where we had to tear out an entire kitchen that had just been built for a very important and very impatient man in finance, because we had not measured their buffet chargers. They're overly large, oversized buffet chargers. And not only the upper cabinets had to be rebuilt to accommodate those, but the lower ones as well, because you need 12 inches between the face of an upper and the face of a lower. You bang your head. So that story gets told to everybody, at some point. Fast forward years later, and we're doing a beautiful and sort of minimalist stone bathroom, which wants no hardware whatsoever. So we're doing custom stone toilet paper recessed niches. And the project architect, who's very smart and very diligent, measures rolls of toilet paper and sends out company user emails to find out the right size of a roll. We have the stone toilet paper niches made, go to install the house, and sure enough find that the toilet paper that this client uses is too big, and that they buy a luxury oversized brand that is only available through Costco. But they are committed to that toilet paper and they're not going to give it up. So we have to beg the contractor, who is lovely group of people, to very carefully chisel out those toilet paper niches and reinstall them 1/2 inch larger.
I love that we're ending on, what do they say? God in design is all about the detail. But as you can all see, like, it's also, design is all about problem solving. Every single tip is almost like a problem solving equation. So first of all, I think we should have a round two. I don't know, I'm just saying, because you guys are amazing. I want to thank both of you dearly, and also NYSID, New York School of Interior Design. Like, thank you for allowing us to have this conversation. This is important and meaningful for our community and for younger designers as they're coming into the profession. There's a little bit of information on NYSID. So they have rolling admissions and they're currently accepting applications. So you can request information and start your application at NYSID, NYSID.edu. And if you're not sure what program is right for you, they'll have somebody who'll talk to you. They have counselors. They're amazing. They'll help you. Because I know you all love design. You're trying to figure it out. They will help you. So if you want to learn anything else about any kind of continuing and professional studies, NYSID.edu, and then there's a /ICPS. That's for continuing ed courses. I think I got it right. But first of all, we love you guys. Thanks for everything you do in our industry about moving our industry forward. We're going to get past everything we're going through right now, and we see you as leaders, and we really thank you so much.
Right back at you.
Oh, yes, thank you so much.
Right back at you.
Hey everyone, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, and today we have a real treat for you. A super dynamic duo. We've got renowned designer Leanne Ford and the Vice President of Product Design and Development in Crate and Barrel, Sebastian Brower. And these two will give us the inside scoop on everything from inspiration, design vision, Leanne's new book, Work in Progress, and her latest collection for Crate and Barrel. If ever there was a match made in heaven, this seems to be one. Hi, guys.
Hi, Cindy, how are you?
I am so happy to see both of you.
Oh my gosh, this is the dynamic duo. You two in the same screen for me is my happy place.
Yay!
What a treat, a total treat.
That's true.
It is a real treat. And Sebastian, when was it that you first met Leanne?
I actually first met Leanne over the phone. I had just started at Crate and Barrel. It was about 18 months ago, so almost a year and a half. And it was one of the first calls I took in my new role. And we just had such a great conversation right off the start. And I was like, this is going to be great. We were so in sync, not only with what she wanted to bring to the brand, but also with the plans that I had to evolve such an iconic brand. And it was just a really good match right off the start. And after that, I just got on a plane off to LA, went to Leanne's home in the Palisades, the one that she was living back then, and just had a great energizing conversation. And everything started from there.
I remember meeting Leanne for the first time too, and she's very captivating, right? She just like sweeps you right off your feet. Now, Leanne, what was your impression of Sebastian?
By the way, you're both very captivating. I would say that's a great word. I'm going to use it more often.
Okay.
I think that, okay, so I'm on this phone call with Crate and Barrel. I mean, I say this to them all the time, but I would have interned there for free. I mean, I cannot believe I'm on this phone call and we are talking about doing a collaboration. It was such a out-of-body experience for me. And I presented this kind of very large, wide pitch of where I saw this collaboration going, which was very naturally their aesthetic and vibe, very naturally mine, but it was the magic meeting point and then shoot it to the moon a little bit, right? And so I pitched this, and there's a new guy on the phone, the Sebastian character, and he is right. I mean, we are on the same wavelength, the same inspiration, the same, looking to the same countries and time and era and lines. And it was, I got off the phone call. I remember I told my husband, I was like, this is going to be so good. This is going to be such a special experience. And
Leanne, what was that like? You're going to get on the phone with Crate and Barrel and talk about a collection. I mean, my God.
Yes. I mean, pretty mind-blowing. It's almost a lot of this fun stuff that happens to me is like too big that I miss it. You know what I mean? Like if it happens to my friends, it's more exciting. But it's happening to you, you kind of miss it. But I try to remember because it's pretty crazy. I mean, people are sending me pictures at the window at the Crate and Barrel store, like with me in the background, and it's just all surreal. I have to appreciate it.
Yeah, I think you're the right, Sebastian, would you say she's the right type of gal also to handle it all? Because it does seem like a lot, like, you know, our life isn't quick, but it feels like, oh my gosh, she's doing this collection. And for you also just starting out there, although you have a very, very like big history in the trade, and it's pretty cool actually. Uh, but you know, you're starting out and you want to do something that you're really, really inspired by.
Exactly, and that's what I loved about Leanne. You know, her approachability, her relaxed ease, and when I looked at her work, to be honest, I wasn't as very familiar with her work when I first started because I had just stepped over a role in fashion, so I was just getting re-immersed in the home industry again. And what I loved about her work was that approachability and that ease, and that's something that I always loved about Crate and Barrel, which actually made me take the job, was that it's a brand that is so good at creating value, and it's so much about democratizing design and making available to a broad range of people. And it's also a brand with such great heritage, and I thought that Leanne would be a great step forward to help us reinforce that heritage as we evolve the look and feel of the brand. And I thought it was such a great opportunity right off the bat, and we just jumped on it. And I've always thought that good design is always about good dialogue and a good conversation. And it started right off the bat like that. And if you're committing to working with someone for a year, the chemistry has to be there, that alignment has to be there. And it just felt so right for us and for in the direction that we wanted to start to take the brand. So it was a really good match.
I love that you say like good dialogue, because like Leanne has her own, she definitely has her own spirit, but her own language, and that sort of like easy breezy, but I'm confident and I'm writing it down and I'm scribbling on the back of the wall and it all looks great. It is like kind of a language. And so that must have been also kind of exciting because you believed in that and there was this person who was right there with you.
Cindy, Sebastian and I are like Elton, John, and Bernie. Like we just don't know who's who in that sense. Like we take turns being Elton, I feel like. So
I love that.
I mean, it was so special to collaborate with their team. I mean, Crate and Barrel's team is magical. I mean, they let me play, they let me try different things. They never said no without a fight, you know, like they're like, we did this canyon arched bed. They said, okay, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna have to do, I mean, how many times they went back and forth, right, Sebastian? But they came back and there was this bed that was literally in my brain that is now in the room. So it was, I mean, the whole team's incredible, I have to say, but we just had so much fun back and forth. I mean, it's, for any interior designer, I mean, and I guess any creative soul, being able to make something that is started in your brain and then see it in physical form is probably the biggest joy that can come to us career-wise, I'd say.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that you had seen the collection in your head. Like, I don't know how over time, it was almost like you made it happen because you saw it and believed in it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And Leanne, tell everybody just out there, I also like, Sebastian, that you said you came out of fashion. And I always think of, you know, fashion and design and interior design are very, very much aligned. But also for me as an editor, like Leanne being a fashion stylist, it's sort of like an, you know, like an editor type of brain. And it all, like when I heard that about you, Leanne, it all kind of all made sense to me. But give everybody a little like quick cliff notes of your trajectory.
Yeah, so I always have to say this, but everybody thinks your success is this straight line, and I'm like, it's such a bowl of spaghetti, right. Like it's all messy.
I agree. Yeah.
And you know, there's certainly mixed with its share of failures, which I'm sure there will be more of. But I was in fashion for 15, 20 years. I was doing interior styling and creative direction, and I bought my own little tiny one-room schoolhouse in Pennsylvania, fixed it up, was finally able to rip out walls and change lighting. And I had always played with my rentals and spray painted walls and did whatever. And so finally, this was the first project I got to really dive in, and Country Living magazine published it. And then people started calling and asking me to design stuff, offices, homes, and I had never done it. But as a freelancer, you say yes, you say yes to opportunities. So I literally called my friend Dan Mazzarini, who has a company in New York City. And I was like, how do I do it? How do I show my ideas? How do I charge? Got this 101 that he went to school for years for. And I jumped in and dove in. So I did both interior design and fashion for 5 years, full time, both of them major. And you really do use the same side of your brain. It is just like a creative, editing is major. I mean, it's all about the edit and all of this. And I finally, after a long time, was like, I gotta pick one. I'm like on a photo shoot in Mexico trying to tell a client to pick this sofa, So I picked interior design, and I'm pretty glad I did.
Yeah, that's fantastic. By the way, Dan Mazzarini, I published him for the first time, his first big project, and he's a rising star, and he
sure is. I know, and all of his successes, I feel so proud of. He was like, we've been friends since 5th grade, so I love it. Earlier, probably.
Yeah,
but Sebastian, we actually had that dialogue together in having a background in design and in fashion, and how they overlap, and how we see the story. So that was another really big perk to working together.
Yeah, it's so great that you brought that up, because just like having a narrative, right? Always having a narrative. It's the thread line with everything.
Yeah, it's a concise story that we created, which always for me is a color story automatically. That's like a simple, easy win. If you keep it in this color story, which for me is very neutral, black and white and tans and natural colors, and then you can play. And then with Crate and Barrel and with Sebastian, we play with caning and arches and lines and round meets, linear. And we, tied in the dining chair to the bedroom furniture. And that was really fun, right? As Sebastian, as we kind of played with it.
And I would say that was kind of a key part in the synergy that happened with this collection. Leanne's point of view is so edited and clear. What she mentioned, neutrals and black and white. And there's nothing I would say more iconic in retail than Crate and Barrel's black and white Helvetica branding, right?
Right.
Even from that point of view, I felt that this was going to be good. And also the way that we approached the material language, I think, was a really good way to bring in the Crate and Barrelness to this too, and amplify it through Leanne's point of view. Because Crate and Barrel has a very strong history of celebrating craftsmanship and material and global making. It's really what built the brand, curating from the globe and bringing the great design from Europe to the United States, and then opening up to different regions to bring interesting and new materials to the country through design. And Leanne hit it right on point by amplifying that language that we had in a new and unique way.
Yeah, I mean, I think she definitely celebrates and she just has a good sense of the time, like what people will respond to. But also as designers, like I would say, Sebastian, like as the design community, they would be interested in your pieces because of the materiality. Like a consumer might be more interested that they understand the black and white and the story behind it. But as a designer, they have their own set of things that they're working on, and seeing all those beautiful materials and the differences, like the texture of things. And the fact also, Leanne, that you brought in an artist and worked with an artist on the what was the floor covering and some of the artwork, all of that. Yeah.
My big thing, Crate and Barrel to me is timeless and forever, and their pieces are so well done that they don't die, right? So they're still around. So with that, my kind of brain space, I guess, would be, let's create pieces that are beyond us, beyond this time, that do not necessarily say 2020. I mean, when you see them in 100 years, they're still around and they're still looking cool. So that was the vision, which is, no time, no place, no space. And then we used really classic materials, things that, I grew up with, the caning, and we played with
caning.
Yeah, we just used them in modern, new shapes and ways, and played with woods. We created this awesome burnt wood effect. So there's this wabi-sabi meets Italian meets disco. I mean, we just kind of threw them all in a pot, and surprise, this pretty stuff came out.
Yeah, like Sebastian, tell us about, because Leanne was telling me the story about like the black, like that she wanted the black, but she just didn't want it to be painted black.
Yeah, so we did a lot of material research and development in prepping for building this collection. We do have a very broad, I would say, vendor base at Crate and Barrel, all with different capabilities and known for different techniques. So if you start to dissect the collection, each of these different pieces come from a different region of the world, which I find incredibly romantic. And one of those pieces was cane. And black cane is actually pretty hard to do because you weave the fiber first, and then you would paint it. But then if you paint natural fiber, it can chip. So we had to figure out a way to dye the cane in a way that it wouldn't discharge color in a dark color, right? Which is the color that discharges the most. And then we had to weave it. And that was entirely new to the artisans in Indonesia that wove it. And we kind of came up with this invention, something that you would think it's so obvious, black cane. And we were able to do it, I would say, in scale.
See, Cindy, this is why I love him.
I know. You know what? Can I just say I've heard, because I know other designers that have worked at have done collections before, and I've always been kind of wowed by them being wowed, and they're wowed by the fact that they can say, like, I'm thinking of this thing, and that your fingers are literally all over the world with craftsmen, and things come back that you dream of, and you can't believe it.
I said I was like, I really want to do black caning. I think it's a modern take. It's on a very, forever material. And I didn't even realize what I was asking for it. I mean, I didn't realize how hard it was to find. Right. And then as we dove in, I was like, you're right. I really have never seen this done and done well. So I apologize for all the crazy things I asked for, Sebastian, and thank you.
And I did have to say no to a couple of things, but black cane was something that we just couldn't resist figuring out. And I'm so glad we did, because it brought a little bit of edge to that collection, and it added contrast to that casual ease that we had going on. So I really, really love that we incorporated that in, because it really, I think, took it to a higher place even, and made it more forward.
It did. So wait, so can you tell me, like, so that was like one issue and you resolved it and it came out even better than you thought. Was there something else in the development of something that, because of the problem, became another thing?
I love that question.
Oh, and that did happen. There was, Leanne loves an organic weave, and she wanted to develop these
she loves an organic weave.
these really simple stools, right? And we sampled them in this really simple cotton thread that was interwoven and interlocking in a very chunky way. They looked really beautiful, but I was so worried about the functionality of them. Like, I thought that you would sit in them and then a rivet on your denim jeans would like snag it out and unravel it. But the texture was really, really fantastic. And all we did was we hung it on a wall and we turned it into wall art. And it was a great way to evolve the typical tapestry weave that you see everywhere. And it's a great wall art piece that just brings texture to a room in a very modern, simple way.
And so that was such a great example of the back and forth, where I thought this stool was the coolest thing in town. And he's like, this is not going to work. It's not practical. This is, you will wear certain pants to sit in the stool, but the average person may not. So we fought back and forth. It's like, this needs to live. This represents the caning in a different material. And then through this meeting, all of a sudden we were holding up on the wall, and that was the win, which is like a, modern take on macrame and textile art. And as a designer, we're always looking for things to put on a wall. And as a TV designer, we're really looking for things from the wall that you're allowed to put on,
Right. Two things I was thinking of as you were saying that. Well, first of all, I could imagine, like, knowing Leanne as much as I do, like, I could imagine her, like, it'll scuff a little. Who cares? You'll love how that looks. It's gonna be fine. And as a manufacturer, you're like, what are you talking about? So I could, so that's kind of really interesting. And then the other thing is, Leanne, we should talk a couple minutes about you're Restored by the Fords. That's the first time I saw you on TV, and you definitely had something special. You definitely are something special. But I remember you'll pin anything on the wall just to get the room to look good.
Is this a compliment, Cindy? I'm getting
no, but I know what that was almost like. Sometimes I could see when you're putting together a room, and I could imagine the time and the financial constraints of a TV show that you still are going to make it look good.
Yes, and it's out of necessity is the mother of invention. And I mean, I live it every day, all day. So when so my brother and I have a show on HGTV. He's the general contractor. I'm the designer. Already you're working with your big brother. So that's its own challenge. But then you're talking about a limited budget, a limited timeline. And I want to make these plays fantastic for these clients. They've got big dreams and I want to make them even better. So when you run out of space or time or money or anything, that's when you got to get creative. So honestly, that's when some of the best art happens, some of the best art installations happen. A lot of times when there's one really fun one where there was it was a gorgeous architectural home. There's a massive round kind of skylight that was probably 30 feet. I mean, it was crazy, and we could not get it wired for lighting, but it needed a focal piece. So I created this rope art, I found a ton of rope in actually Steve's basement and painted it and draped it and hung it and just turned it into something because it needed a focal point. And all of that fun stuff of like the turns into the yeah.
Yeah. And you know what that is, I would venture to say some of that is also your styling background. Because I know when we're on photo shoots, we're making stuff look great out of nothing. And
t-shirts turn into turbans, turn into scarves. Yeah.
Right.
That's so true.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a stylist for years, and I used to work a lot for 17 magazine, and we'd run out of necklaces. I'd want to put tons of necklaces on the girl. She's on the beach, her hair's messy. We'd run out, so I used to use macaroni, and I used to take the belts and put them around. And you're so right, I'm just still doing it.
Yeah, I know that when I go, if I was ever to see anything at Crate and Barrel, the back room, I'd say, take me to the back room. I want to see the mess in the back room because there's got to be a treasure back there.
It's so true. You're like, give me your rejects. I want those.
I'll take the rejects, yeah.
I know. Sebastian, when I go in their office, I'm looking around, I'm like, please tell me what can go home with me. I want all of this.
Right. So Leanne, you just reminded me, Leanne we were just at a conference a design conference in Palm Springs right before all of this happened. And we were doing an exercise with sketches. You took the really good sketch. She took the really good sketch. She said, that's going in my book.
You're all incredible and famous people in my industry. Of course I took your sketches. I'm no fool.
Todd Heiser's sketches, actually. Yeah,
I was a super fan.
Yeah, no, it was really great. So let's talk about, is the book out yet, work in progress? It's just
it's out. So my brother and I did a book because people kept asking about why we designed, or I guess why we weren't afraid to fail, why we weren't afraid to be creative. And we just kind of talked about how we got to HGTV and why we're not afraid to blow it and mess up, and how our parents gave us kind of the freedom to create and to live joyfully. So we wrote a little book, and it's been really fun to have out, and I make my friends read it. I made Sebastian read it.
Oh, I read it. I have it right here still on my.
I do too.
Hello, where's my book, Dan?
Okay, I'll send you one. Maybe I'll sign it. I'll have Steve give you a kiss one.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah,
well, wouldn't you say Sebastian after meeting Leanne, like she's sort of like a collector of a lot of things, of ideas and people and thoughts, and it's always moving in there. And that's what makes her so, you know, she's a beautiful girl, but she's really more exciting, like in here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say just easy, you know, and direct and simple, and good design to me is also like that, really simple,
Right.
and easy and relaxed.
Right.
And it made the whole process a lot easier, you know, because it is a complicated process, you know, conceptualizing an idea, conceptualizing a line, prototyping, sampling it, revising it, involving the team, and having them lead through it. And it was just such a delight to do that for a year. To be honest, I'm starting to miss it. Because
we're starting to miss a lot.
All right, wait. So I know there are like 100 pieces in the collection. So you got to tell me, you got to give me a couple of your favorites, each of you. Okay, Sebastian.
You go, Sebastian.
I love the West Bar. I love that it's a circle bar raised off the ground. I love it in the black cane. I thought that was such a unique piece. I love the canyon bed because I thought that was a unique, you know, invention, doing a really simple canopy that felt a little modernist, a little bit Italian, but also very minimal and graphic. And to me, that just screams Crate and Barrel, iconic, and also Leanne Ford. And I love the rugs. I love the simple, nuanced, beautiful texture that we got in the rugs. I thought our artisans in India did a brilliant job translating the gorgeous watercolor into a weave. And that could be very complicated. I love the ghost rug, I think, or the Georgia rug, or the Ghost Ranch rug.
Yeah.
Because I love Georgia O'Keeffe. I love her home in Ghost Ranch. But I also love the nuance of the neutrals. It feels like a painting too. And I can't believe we accomplished that as a weave at such great value. I think that's a really good example of a beautifully crafted piece that is easily accessible. And that to me also screams great.
You know what the biggest, I think, compliment for us, Cindy, was a lot of designers have been using a lot of the pieces, and, you know, they're putting it into their presentations to clients, and they're buying multiples to have on hand. And just being a designer, I know that that's a compliment, because I know they're always looking, they're always searching, and they're trying to find the next thing they can use. So that's been a massive compliment to, I think, what we've done and created. And then with the neutral color story, it remains timeless. This is not going to go out of style tomorrow. These rugs he's talking about are these beautiful, earthy, natural tones. I mean, the rugs are definitely up there. There's one rug called the Yuma, which is a sisal that's dyed black and with natural fringe, and then a sisal that's dyed like this amazing suit, like literally the color of the shirt. Hold on, there it is. This sumac-y kind of tan brown. And then I worked with Alexandra Valenti, who's an incredible artist out of Austin. So nice. She does incredible watercolor collage. I mean, gorgeous pieces. I can't get enough of her work, or her, to be honest. So I worked with her. I asked her if she would be like to collaborate, because we talked about using art and creating wall art. And I said, well, let's support artists, you know? So Crate and Barrel is very down. And we worked with her. She did 3 original pieces. They went to wall art, and they went to rugs, and they went to pillows. I mean, pretty darn dreamy. So that was a joy to be able to collaborate with her out of Texas.
She's added another really exciting layer. And going back to, you know, this collection was really made throughout the world. You have a little bit of Austin from Alexandra. We did the bedding in LA, in Los Angeles, cut and sew, and the fabric development. All the cane pieces came from Indonesia. The rugs came from India. All the ceramics came from Portugal. So there's a little bit of the best, I would say, the best craft from all around the world. That to me is my favorite piece of the collection, I would say, is that sensibility of curating from the world and highlighting the best each artisan has to offer in each region. And the Fields
chair. They all live together.
Yeah, and I don't want to forget about the Fields chair. I love the Fields chair.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, Sebastian, you can't pick every single piece.
I know, but that
I'll pick the Fields chair. I'll pick it. I get that one.
Favorite. I just bought it too, so I'm waiting for it to come in the mail.
In the mail. It just comes out.
Sebastian, have you been to any of the factories? Is
Oh
that
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, pre-COVID, I was on the road, I would say maybe 8 months out of the year, constantly traveling. So in my first year at Crate, I spent a great deal of time visiting our vendors throughout the world. Not only our vendors, but also visiting great cities for inspiration, because I wanted to immerse myself out there and see what was happening around the world and in Europe, to make more informed decisions as to what was happening in the industry then. So yeah, I've been lucky to visit a lot of our factories by now.
That's exciting. I mean, it must be exciting to see the making of. I know, like, I love going to any place where they're making something. Yeah.
Well, it re-inspires you of what the options are, right? Because you're like, oh wait, you can do this. Well, what about this with this? And you know, it really does light your little fire.
Yeah.
We rely so much on travel. I mean, so many good ideas are born by working hand in hand with the artisans and the makers in our factories, I would say. We design a lot of our product in-house, and it starts with a sketch and it goes through that product development cycle. But I would say that a lot of our latest collections were born out of traveling the world and seeing what's out there and how we can adapt something or change it, or again, a dialogue, a conversation, more of a craft conversation. But it's definitely, I mean, this travel pause, it's definitely I think going to change how we approach design too.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I also have heard from designers who they're working on a lot of different projects and a lot of different types of projects. And so they look, you know, they're always interested, they're always passionate. And I heard right away, the bed. I heard the credenzas. So they are thinking in terms of projects and multiples and how to use something that maybe they haven't seen before, like the bed, which is definitely very, very special. And then other places where they need 50 of something, which is very good.
Ooh, keep talking.
Oh yeah, that's good news.
Yeah.
We need those friends, Cindy.
Yeah, I have those friends.
I know you do. Oh, I know. I mean, you know, it's fun because Interior Design Magazine's so architectural, you know, so about the lines. And I mean, you guys are in your own realm of creation, and it's fun to, I mean, when I met you and then when I met all your gang of, you know, all the people at your event or at the, what'd you call it? Not the conference.
Yeah, it was the Giants conference.
At the Giants conference, which I crashed, Sebastian, I crashed. I mean, it was just so inspiring to talk to people that were creating on such a massive scale. It was overwhelmingly inspiring, I would say.
Well, I do think that, you know, now the conversation is all about health and wellness, a healthy living, a healthy lifestyle. And I mean, we've been talking about it in our world for like 10 years, but everyone's been really, really stressed out talking about it. Now everyone's taking a pause. And I think that this collection represents that kind of breath of, like you said, ease, and it's still modern. And I think it came out really at the right time, Leanne.
We're a business that's leading through digital, and customers are buying it without seeing it or touching it. And that's just a good testament to how striking, I would say, the silhouettes are. And
I think so.
And the materiality is that customers just have faith in us and in you, Leanne, and your design sensibility, and are just making such a considered purchase and doing it without seeing it in a showroom.
Well, then they arrive and they're heavy and they're you know, thick and massive and strong, and they really do feel like long-term, forever pieces. And I think so when people they like it, they see in a picture, and then when it arrives, they like it even more, which is a big deal. So that's been a great thing.
Yeah, that's a testament to you at Crate and Barrel, that's for sure.
100%.
Well, listen, thanks for the insider chat, you guys. I love you guys. I want to give you big, big hugs and see you together. And yeah, big virtual hugs.
That's
Sebastian, thank you for the insight in Crate and Barrel. Leanne, you're an inspiration. And we want everyone to like check out the collection and get it, but also to just go forth and design, right? Keep designing, keep inspiring. And I look forward to more from you guys.
And Cindy, I want to tell people that design does not have to be precious. It can be joyful.
Yes, no, for sure, for sure.
Right?
Oh, yes,
Especially now. Like paint your walls, live a little.
exactly, exactly.
Thank you so much for having us, Cindy. I've always loved your magazine. I look forward to having it on my desk. Now my dining room, which is my
Thank
home
you.
office.
Yeah, change your subscription over. You can get it at home.
Yeah, I'm going to, or I can just go pick it up at the office. But thank you for filling us with inspiration. I always look at your publication, and it inspires so much of our team. So thank you for that, and thank you for keeping us inspired through this too.
Well, listen, we just closed an issue last night, and there might be something on Crate and Barrel and Leanne's collection in there.
No! Oh my gosh, I just got chills.
There you go. Well, we'll leave on chills. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye, Cindy. Bye, Sebastian.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to go. Bye, guys.
Love all around.